Well, hello again. As I mentioned in the previous PowerPoint about resumes, this originally was a complete total one, and I separated it into two so I could focus them a little bit better and so they wouldn't be as long. This one is about cover letters, and it's got some very practical information, but what I don't do is give you a bunch of copies of cover letters for you to sort of use as guides. I want you to be original. I do have a sample, but it doesn't really have all the information on it. So you have to write the cover letter. You have to put your best foot forward in that. Cover letters do matter. They highlight the most important parts of the resume. They indicate that you can write and do correspondence, and they give you a professional personality prior to the interview. Remember, we're trying to get to the interview. Some overall tips for the cover letter. The first one is to address it to the right person. You will not put "to whom it may concern" or "dear ladies and gentlemen." That is something from the 50s and not acceptable now. The very worst thing you can have is "dear director of personnel" or "dear director of human resources." But you can pretty much go on any website and find out who that person is, or who the supervisor to whom you're writing is. So you really should have it to a name. I will accept director of human resources, but if I can find it, you can find it. So I really discourage you from doing that. You need to write it to a person. You're going to, in the first paragraph, specify the exact position and where it was seen. You want to get to the point, but artfully. You don't want to say, "I'm applying for this job," and you definitely don't want to write, "I'm writing this letter to tell you that I'm applying for this job," which are horrible ways to start a letter. But at the same time, you don't want to just start, "Please accept my resume for." You can do that, but it's not very artful and it doesn't show much creativity. You want to focus on two strengths for the job. There are 3 or 4 areas, mostly 3: your skills, your experience, and your education or training. You want to focus on the 2 strongest ones as supported by the resume and as indicated in the job description on the posting. The biggest problem I have with the cover letters with students is that they don't sell themselves. They're way too modest. They're afraid to talk about what they've done. They're afraid to show their skills. They're short. The letters are short and undeveloped. No details, no specifics, no examples of what they've done and how they are the best candidate for the job. And you might say, "Well, I don't know if I'm the best candidate for the job." Well, you don't know that you're not either. So, so you have to really think in terms of, what can I do to sell myself? And often I'll be telling students, "Well, I know you've done this. Why don't you talk about that in your letter?" So that's a very big part to talk about. That's, again, why I have you doing that job analysis memo at the beginning, so that you can start digging into, well, what do I have? What are my strengths and weaknesses? And if you haven't done it to this point, there are some links in this module about focus to assessment and other kinds of things. I recommend you take the Strengths Quest inventory. It's very good, very, very valid test, more than the Myers-Briggs. And you find out some more things about yourself so that you can say in these letters. You should know your strengths so that you can sell them. Some overall tips then. Use the middle paragraphs for the details. You should always have a statement in there that refers in some way to the resume. In the last paragraph, you're going to artfully ask for the interview without doing it as if you're going to barge into their office. You want to put an enclosure notice below the signature. And nowadays, a cover letter can be a cover email, but you still want to follow all the conventions of it. And it's good to have a cover letter. And so for this assignment, you have to do a letter, not just an email. So let's talk about some opening lines, because like I said, I'm not going to give you a specific guide to follow. You've got to show some creativity here. But these are some ideas. And if you don't like them, just follow the spirit of them, not the letter. So your job posting on the certain, don't put X website, on a certain website, indicates your need for a college graduate in communication with experience in website design. Okay, something like that. Obviously, there'd be more to it. Please accept the enclosed, and I have attached accompanying, depending on the context, resume for the position of that was posted on for a date. Now notice the specifics here so that they know exactly what you're trying to apply for. My experience in blank and my degree in blank make me an excellent candidate for the position of. You say, ooh, should I say excellent candidate? Yes. Well, you make me a crummy candidate? Makes me a mediocre candidate? No, you want to be an excellent candidate. You didn't go to 4 years of college to be a mediocre candidate. So, and again, with the specifics about where it was advertised in the position. So, a couple more. I'm very interested in the blank position that is available at, and you might want to give a little more information there. The second one is direct, probably not the best in the world, but it's not horrible. Your marketing department has advertised 2 openings for which my experience directly qualifies me. Now, that might get you in trouble, so you probably want to just say your marketing department has advertised an opening for and then send in 2 separate applications for that point. Okay, in the rest of the first paragraph, you're going to summarize your 2 major qualifications for the position based on the job description. And here you want to work on conciseness and directness. So here's an example. You can just see that again, the spirit, not the letter. My bachelor's degree in psychology earned in 2019, and my 18 months of experience working in the Whitfield County, it should say, Sheriff's Office, have prepared me for the work involved in this entry-level position working with juvenile offenders. So that basically it's your thesis statement, if you will. It says, these are my main claims to fame. These are the 2 reasons you should hire me and interview me at least. And that's what you want to do as after the paragraph where you clarify what you want. I should say after the first sentence in the first paragraph, clarifying what you want. Now, we get into the middle paragraphs. I really think you need 2 middle paragraphs. And here you're going to describe your experience and skills that you mentioned in paragraph 1 in more detail. Let your education speak for itself, but you can mention special areas of interest. And of course, if you've had internships or service learning or job shadowing, undergraduate research, any of these kinds of things, you want to talk about those because they show you went the extra mile. You're not just somebody who took classes. Any special training you've had related to the job and previous jobs, previous positions, customer service training, maybe you earned a certificate in something or got a certain credential. Again, you want to mention this. You say, well, it's on the resume, but okay, you don't just repeat the resume, but you want to maybe give some more information about what that taught you or why that's specifically important for this position. Make a reference to your resume in a strategic place on the resume, in the cover letter, okay? As my resume indicates, I will look for that, and that'll be one of the things I'm looking for in your particular drafts that you send me. As I said, students tend to write too little in the middle paragraphs. You can always cut. If it goes on and you end up with a 2-page letter, you can edit for conciseness. But your first draft should be full and detailed. If it goes over a little bit and you submit it to me, hey, I'll give you some ideas for editing. But it's better in the first draft to have too much than too little. It's always easier to cut in that. So sell yourself. Pull it out. Why are you qualified, more than qualified, for this position? Why should you get an interview? In the closing paragraphs, the first question people always ask is, should I write, I will call you next week to set up an appointment? Well, I would say no. You can call to verify that your resume was received, but hiring agents are very, very, very busy, and they probably will not respond well to that. It's also a cultural issue with the region, industry, and company. So you can write your closing paragraph in a way to solidify that you are very interested in the job. It looks, the company is the kind of place you would like to work. Don't say to get a start or get my foot in the door. You want to show that you're committed to working there a while. So you want to be very positive and state your availability. Even restate your phone number. Just make it sound like you are just very anxious to talk to them or very looking forward to it. Do, in that last paragraph, state your availability. Aim for enthusiasm but professionalism. Don't be silly. Don't put exclamation marks. Also, you're going to, in the end of as you finish off the letter, you want to be sure you have the appropriate closure and your signature. Okay, this is a letter. It needs to follow that form that we talked about in Module 3 very specifically. Don't drop things off. So you want to say sincerely, leave 3 spaces, hit the enter bar or return bar 4 times so you have spaces, and then type your name, and then go down 2 spaces again and put in enclosure and resume. Be sure that the letter is balanced visually. It should only be 1 page. It should be 12-point font. You can maybe get away with 11. You want it to have a good, as we talked about in Module 3, a good picture frame look, white space equal on both sides and at the top. And as always, focus on what you can do for the employer or the company. Now, as I said, as far as examples, this is tricky. I don't really want to give you too many examples. There is one that's posted for an internship, but it's a little bit fill in the blank. This needs to be your original work, so this may be harder for some of you than the resume. You are free, of course, to look for examples on the internet for ideas, but remember, those were written by some resume or cover letter person. They weren't written for you, so it needs to be original. All right, thank you.